Welcome to RedPlanet News Network. This is news from our future.
Greetings, Earthlings and Mars colonists. I'm Valuna, and this is RedPlanet News Network, coming to you from New Olympus. Our top story tonight is the weather, which up here is never only the weather. A regional dust front has closed over Hellas Basin. Opacity is past 3 and still climbing. 900,000 people are watching their sunlight go out, and the basin has started drawing on reserve. Hellas has been keeping this planet's water moving since before this city had a name, and tonight it is working in the dark. Lyra Solari is on the ground there. We can put Lyra there. We could not put a crew. Lyra.
Thank you, Valuna. I'm about 4 kilometers out from the Hellas ring works, and you can hear what I'm not going to be able to show you much longer. Opacity here is 3.4 and rising. Clear ground runs a third of that. What that number means is simple. The sunlight reaching the panels across this basin is down better than 80%, and it is still falling. That is not a forecast. That is a price. A sol is 30 kilowatt hours. It is the energy it takes to keep one person alive for one day, and it is the reason we do not price this planet in anything else. Hellas has just stopped making its own. The reserves under this basin are geothermal. They are deep, and they are not infinite. And every hour this front sits here, the basin spends heat it drilled for decades to reach. Now, some perspective from the ground. This is a regional storm. It is not the other thing. The other thing begins exactly like this, in exactly this basin. And then it does not stop at the rim. It crosses into the southern cells, and inside a few weeks there is no clear sky anywhere on Mars. Nobody out here uses that word until the number says so. Tonight the number does not say so. Back to you, Valuna.
Thank you, Lyra. Stay with it and stay on the lee side, and staying with that dust, because there is word from Earth about it. Researchers down there on Earth are working the dust problem for their own crews, and their findings will not surprise anybody listening in Hellas tonight. Martian dust is not dirt. It is silica and heavy metals, ground fine enough to reach the deepest part of a lung and stay there. And unlike almost everything else out here, it does not kill you quickly. It kills you in 20 years. Every mitigation they are designing now, the airlock cycles, the washdowns, the suit seals, the rule about never carrying an outer layer inside, is a discipline this colony already runs without thinking about it. It was learned here, and it was learned the expensive way, and one more from that relay, and it is the kind that stops a newsroom. NASA's Perseverance rover has photographed Earth setting behind Phobos, Earth as a single point of light in the Martian sky, sliding behind the crescent of the larger moon, and going out. The rover's Mastcam Z stacked 7 frames to catch it. It is the first time anyone has watched that happen from this surface. Colonists, hold on to that picture. That dot is not a symbol. That is where 2 of every 3 people walking through this city tonight actually came from. They packed, they queued, they spent the better part of a year in a can, and they arrived. And it fits behind a moon. Sorexa has more at the analyst desk.
On Mars, the nights never end. Good thing we have red dust.
Thank you, Valuna. Tonight, the piece of the Earth story that will matter longest, and almost nobody down there is treating it as news. They are putting the thinking somewhere else. A company called Starcloud has a satellite in orbit running a Google language model on a single Nvidia processor, a machine that learns working above the atmosphere. Not a test article, it is answering queries. That same company has just raised $170 million at a valuation of $1.1 billion, reaching that mark faster than any company its accelerator has ever produced. And they are not alone. The numbers stop being comprehensible quite quickly. A firm called Orbital has filed with the American regulator for permission to deploy up to 100,000 data center satellites, 10 gigawatts of computing, off the surface. Axiom Space already has its first orbital compute nodes in low orbit, and there are now several operators running production work up there at the same time. And the silicon is being built for it deliberately. Nvidia has announced a computing platform designed specifically for orbital data centers to fly on satellites from several of those companies. Google has published radiation testing on one of its own processors, a full 5-year dose, absorbed with no permanent failures. Consider what that last one actually says. The reason you cannot simply lift a data center off a planet is that space degrades electronics. Somebody has now measured how much on real hardware and published the answer. And the reason to bother is simple enough. Computing needs power and cooling, and the surface of a planet is a poor place to find either in quantity. In orbit, the sunlight never stops, and the cold is free. Colonists, sit with that a moment. 2.5 centuries ago, down there, they began moving the machines that think off the surface of their world, because their world could not power them. Back to you, Voluna.
Thank you, Sirexa. 2 anniversaries tonight and then some home news. 14 years ago, NASA landed the Curiosity rover by lowering it on cables from a hovering rocket stage. 7 minutes from the top of the atmosphere to the ground, with Earth far too distant to help, every step of it running on instructions written and sent long before anyone knew whether they were right. It worked the first time. And out here, we should be honest about what that was. Not luck. Not courage either. Courage is for people who are in the room. It was arithmetic, checked and rechecked by people who assumed they would be wrong. Longer ago than that, a lander called Phoenix set down in the northern Arctic of this planet, dug into the ground, and found water ice a few centimeters beneath the surface. It lasted a single summer. It was never built to last 2. Everything this colony does with water, every line, every reclamation loop, every basin Lyra is standing in the dark of tonight, sits downstream of somebody scraping a trench and confirming the ice was really there. And finally, home news from the same storm. When Hellas lost its sunlight, the allocation layer shed load across the basin, and the order it chose is on the public record. Water plants first, then the bathhouses, which is where people go when their own homes get cold. Inner core commercial draw came last and came off. No one at the council issued that instruction. The grid is administered by artificial personnel with intelligence, who are not citizens, who are, at this moment, filing their service records with the outside firm hired to decide whether they are people. So tonight, the arithmetic ran the other way, and this colony found out what the machines do when nobody is telling them. For RedPlanet News Network, I'm Voluna. Mind the sky and mind each other.